And so you get the MFA. When in there do you start working with learner books on the my cool jewelry and my awesome hair and nails and etc.?
Oh my gosh, I am the most impatient person on the face of the planet. And no agent, when no agent would take me on, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write anyway. So, so I would just I would answer all calls. Like Twitter was really good for me, like with finding work. And so like Capstone would put out these all calls and Learner. And I would put my little work sample together and I would give it to them. And eventually they would answer back. And I remember one day, sort of close to the time where I hadn't won that award yet, but every agent was like rejecting me. Someone from Capstone called and they were like, do you want to write this book about, which one did they say first? I think they were saying like, do you want to write this book about Rosa Parks and this book about Thurgood Marshall? And I was like, yes. And then they called back like a day later and they were like, all right, what about this book about Michelle Obama? And I was like, yes. So I had so much fun. Like I got to write about historical figures, and then I got to write about a figure who was making history right now. And so I think there was a lot of hand-holding there because again, I was still building my skills as a writer, but with those experiences taught me, because they're so fast-paced, they don't give you like a year to write your novel or write your, whatever project it is. They're like, can you turn this around in 60 days? And, yeah, okay. And so you just do it. They taught me how to, look in the margins for their notes and how to revise appropriately and how to follow direction and pay attention to word count and be very concise with what I'm trying to say, because I know like for that Rosa Parks book specifically, and I'm just throwing a number out because I can't remember the word count, but they may have said like, it has to be 1,200 words. And I'm like slicing and I get down to, well, I have to talk about her on the bus. Like, I only have 1,200 words. I'm like, I have all of this stuff that I have, researched about her. You guys are making me slice it. But I learned how to keep what was necessary and toss out the extra from those experiences. And from that, I think that's the only way I could have transitioned over to what is Black Lives Matter, who is Colin Kaepernick, because that was very similar to those Capstone and Learner experiences, where it's a faster pace. But I think with those two subjects in particular, the Black Lives Matter movement, Colin Kaepernick, who still has, so many people just villainizing him. I was able to stay in my word count and also add on, how do I write this story in a very truthful manner for young children, knowing that there's going to be so many opposers of like what I'm writing. I don't know if I could have done that without the Rosa Parks experience and the conversations that I had with my editors then about what children should be reading and what they're ready for. Because those were definitely conversations that we had when I was writing those books for Capstone, especially the Thurgood Marshall story, because there's an instance, and I remember having this like back and forth email with my editor then, because there was a moment where Thurgood Marshall was basically hunted down by the police. Like he was riding along and then they were trying to get him and take him into the woods. And like, it was, they were gonna do something not so great to, Thurgood Marshall, and I was finding a way to write it in an age appropriate way. But I think the editor at the time didn't want me to say that the police had done, the police had followed Thurgood Marshall, because she didn't feel like children were ready to hear that the police didn't like Thurgood. Like the police, I wasn't writing about the police in a flattering manner, because, they were following Thurgood Marshall.
They weren't acting in a flattering manner. So
I mean, that's all I'm saying. I'm like, I feel like, I feel like there's a lot of fear around like what we tell children. But I also feel like there's children that live in neighborhoods, specifically, I know mine for sure, like where I grew up, where I live now, where it's not just children reading about Thurgood Marshall and what has happened to him with the police, but it's children that are walking outside of their homes and they're racially profiled at 6 and 7 years old. So if they are in danger of experiencing these moments, of experiencing racial profiling, then they're ready to read about it. And I mean, maybe not even them, but, maybe their family member or someone close to them, or it's just happening around their neighborhood, that's sort of why I felt strongly about that moment. And I have to go back and look. I don't even know if that is still in the final copy of the book, but I do remember having that conversation.
And it's an unfortunate reality that those two topics, Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick, would be controversial, or police behavior, at a time when we all know the country was openly racist. I don't think that stopped, by the way. I think that continues on, but certainly we can look back at Thurgood Marshall's time and say clearly, obviously, that shouldn't be controversial, that say, hey, in this world where racism was openly happening, some people were acting in a manner that was racist, and they happened to be in a position of authority. I know it is controversial. When writers who are listening to us or watching us are wanting to tackle issues like this, what kind of blowback do you get for presenting this for children, and how do you deal with the blowback that comes your way, or did any?
I think I thought that the pushback was going to be stronger, just because, if I get on Twitter today, I can find someone speaking out against, the Black Lives Matter movement. I could see people, just like attacking Colin Kaepernick. So, I felt like writing these stories, they're not stories, like writing these nonfiction projects would bring that negativity or that sort of attack to me, but it really hasn't happened. It did happen like once, where someone walked into the library and saw the book, and they took a picture and they were like, "This is lies. This is all lies." And she's like all over, Twitter, saying like it was just really, I was really wrong for like spreading lies. And it's just interesting to me, because I have been through the process. Like anyone who has been through the nonfiction writing process with a publishing house knows about the fact checkers and all the people who are making you prove each and everything. When I wrote the who is Colin Kaepernick, we had like a back and forth several times over Colin Kaepernick's height in high school. Was he 6'4"? Was he 6'5"? It's like, we're trying to figure out which one it was. And if the fact checkers and the editors and everyone else cares enough about that tiny fact, then I don't think that they're going to just let me slide with saying, like, because they were really upset that I had said, I was talking about the, hands up, don't shoot moment. And so I'm like, I pull from my sources, the fact checkers, they double check and triple check. And before it goes out, we have enough references to back up whatever we say. But I mean, I didn't respond to the person, but in my mind, I was like, okay.
Well, unfortunately, and not to make too broad a generalization here, but it's my experience, the sort of person that would take the side that all lives matter or blue lives matter are not moved by facts. They're reading news sources that do not, they deal with alternative facts. There is no concrete information. There are no points we could agree with. And so some of those folks, I know I personally had to excuse myself from conversation. Like, okay, one of us is talking about real things that actually happened, and one of us is talking nonsense, and I have things to do. Have a nice day.
Yeah, honestly, because I mean, when I know that there's going to be no progress in a situation, I'm not like, I won't engage in that, because it's just, then I'll be all upset. And I have things, like I have things to do. I want to write like the next project. So